Okay, the New Carlisle City Council, regular meeting, May 5th, 2014, 7 p.m. Will now call to order, please.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mr. Zambach.
Present.
Mr. Reynolds.
Here.
Mr. Rick Lowry. Here. Mr. Craybacher.
Yep.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Here.
All present.
Okay, if everybody stand, please, we'll have the invocation by Pastor Andrew Wright from the Church of the Brethren.
God, thank you for the day. Spring is here, shall we ask? It would seem good. Thanks for this change of season, and thanks for being with us in all the seasons of our lives. God, it's good to have these dedicated citizens helping to run this town. We thank you very much for the gifts you have given them. We ask for wisdom and patience and courage to make the choices they have to make. Bless them and keep this town safe in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, if you join me for Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll turn around, there's a flag in the back, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, need an action on the minutes, regular meeting, April 21st, 2014, please.
So moved. Second.
We have Mr. Mike Lowry on the motion, second by Mr. Zambach.
Correct. Any discussion on the minutes? Anyone, anything? Mr. Collier, if you would, call for the vote.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry.
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, tonight we have communication, a proclamation honoring Poppy Days, American Legion Auxiliary Unit 286. And I think, Ms. Plesher, you're here tonight for that. Would you go up to the, well, you don't have to go up there. I'll read it from here and we'll do that. If you would stand, I'll come up if you would, please. Would you come up here? We'll try and get a picture with you if you would. Come on around here if you would, please. Do we have somebody with a camera that would mind taking a picture, please, of this? Thank you. Okay, this is from the Office of the Mayor. It's a proclamation. Whereas America is a land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers. And whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle. And whereas a nation must remember the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war. And whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars. And whereas the American Legion Auxiliary Unit number 286 of New Carlisle has pledged to remind Americans annually of this debt through the distribution of the memorial flower. Now therefore, I, Lowell McLaughlin, Mayor of New Carlisle, Ohio, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 17, 2014, as Poppy Day in New Carlisle, and ask that all citizens pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom by wearing the memorial poppy on Memorial Day, May 26, 2014. Signed this 5th day of May, 2014, Lowell McLaughlin. Thank you for doing it. Thank you. Certainly appreciate it. Thank you. Can we get a picture? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for the city manager's report. Do you need something?
You mind?
Did you want to say something?
Please.
Surely.
Yeah,
One minute if you will. Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to make a comment on the proclamation. As is said, May 17th, this month is Poppy Day. You will see that young lady. And I'm going to appoint you, Lowell, you, myself, a whole bunch. May 17th, correct, Sharon?
Yes.
And we will be out. We'll be at Security National Bank, PNC Bank, just about every business in town, Howard's, and the money does go to disabled veterans, correct? And we'd ask you to please, if it's a nickel, a dime, or whatever, to make a contribution and get a copy, okay? Thank you.
Or a dollar bill or a $5 bill work also.
Exactly, we'll take
All that
anything, we're
works.
not choosy at all.
Amen to that. Thank you again for your.
Thank you,
appreciate
Mayor,
it.
for the time, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. I'm sorry, now, city manager, if you would, please.
That's fine, thank you. It's somewhat of an abbreviated report. The one item I did want to bring your attention to is a letter from Chief Phillips regarding the fire division pay. And I'm just going to ask council if you would look it over the next couple of weeks, and then I would like to bring an ordinance to council at the next meeting. The last time our fire division received any kind of a change in compensation was July of 2008. So in order for us to be able to be competitive and to be able to attract and keep good employees, I feel like it is important that we address this where we have, I mean, they were willing to not take a pay raise for quite a while, but I do think it's time we address that. So that's, he's gone into a lot of detail talking about what he would like to see changed, and also comparing some of our rates with the area fire departments, what they pay their employees. That was just to bring that to your attention, and again, I'll bring that as an ordinance at the next council meeting. And that was really all I had. I'd be glad to take, or if anybody here has any questions that you would like to address to us, we'd be glad
Okay.
to take those.
Council, questions, please? Mr. Quaybon.
Two, the Bell Manor. How's that working out? And the second one, I noticed that there's blacktop. You know, are we doing blacktopping? Or am I just dreaming that there was blacktop on Church Street too?
That was a contractor for CVS that tied in a new service. We
Okay.
are patching, we are getting ready to do blacktop in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Bell Manor, I will turn over to Miguel.
On Del Manor, Tim asked me late last week where we stood with the donation agreement. I did inquire of the attorney for Van Crest, the new owner of the property, and as of today, I've not heard. Now,
That's been.
I understand that that's not necessarily a rush for them because the actual finalization of the donation isn't going to take place for, frankly, several months while they do their due diligence. But I certainly expect to have an answer from their attorney, and I will pass that on to council either by email or at the next meeting.
Okay. What about the properties?
The Twin Creeks properties, once again, Miguel met with the prosecutor's
You've been
office.
busy.
I met with the prosecutor last Monday, as a matter of fact, about that. There were some issues with the marketability of the titles of those properties that came to light when the potential buyer of 29 of them had their attorney do title searches on them. So the attorney for the potential buyer came to me with those issues. I took those issues to the prosecutor's office. They have agreed that those are issues that need to be fixed in order for those properties to be properly marketable. And we've already filed the first 6 motions with the Common Police Court to essentially reopen those tax foreclosures and fix the issues, of which there's several of them. None of them are overly complicated, but unfortunately it's going to take a little bit of time to reopen those cases and have them have the prosecutor's office correct the deficiencies in the titles that frankly they overlooked when they did the tax foreclosures.
Thank you.
I take it the buyer is willing to work with us on this?
Yes,
Not a
my
problem with that.
understanding from speaking with the buyer's attorney is that, like us, he's a little frustrated. It shouldn't have happened this way. It's nobody's fault it's not their fault, obviously, it's not our fault. But he is willing to wait out, is our understanding, whatever amount of time it takes to get these title deficiencies fixed.
I know I had a conversation with him about a week and a half ago, and he inquired for council to know that he was hoping that council would work with him on this, that he didn't want us being frustrated on it, that he was willing to go forward. So thank you. You had something you'd like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Mr. Kitco a quick question. Is there a way to get a price on, say, a ballpark project, not ballpark, but a ballpark idea on a road project without putting an actual bid out? For example, could you get a rough price on what it would cost to regrind a certain length of a street and repave it versus, you know, like I know, for example, in Plumwood, we originally ground down the sides, but did grind the entire street. So can you get a price on what it would cost to grind the roughly same size street grind the whole thing and repave it? And
How
not,
about get a price for mill and fill?
yeah, mill, yeah,
Full mill and fill?
full mill, not reconstruct, just mill.
Right, full mill and fill.
Yeah, I mean, is that possible? I'm just curiosity, what the price difference is between the partial mill versus a full mill?
Is it Plumwood?
I mean, just not necessarily that street, any street, just something around the average size street, you know?
I can probably get you just a price per foot.
Okay, that'll
That
work.
way you'll know what to get. Now, you're talking, you want to know full mill and fill compared to full reconstruction.
Well, I was curious because I know, and I'm not using Plumwood as an example because I live on it, I know the figures from that street when it was done, I think it was around 30,000, so I was curious what the price jump would have been if it was a full mill versus the partial.
Yeah, we don't do partial mills unless we're trying to do some side work like that anymore. Because of some of the problems you see with raised asphalt so far above the gutter,
Right.
things like that. But no, we can get both, and then you can compare them.
Okay, thank you.
We'll have those at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I think, that's something that all of us would like to have, because of course we get questions all the time about trying to fix streets and so forth. That would be a nice figure to be able to have, to let people know this is the type of cost that it costs just to do that type of thing.
If they have questions, they need to probably call up to get some of the technical reasoning behind some of the price and how costs work for those streets.
The problem with that is it comes up in general conversation with a lot of
and then
people,
just
and they
pass
like
it
to know.
on. Yeah, just pass
We
it
could just pass it on. That'd be a good idea to have. Somebody else, anyone else, questions? Anyone? Okay,
That was all.
no questions at all? All right, we will continue on. Committee reports. I'm sorry, we need to go comments to the public. Anyone in the public like to have anything to say tonight? Anyone at all? Okay, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. If at any times you do have a question on something, please let us know. Just raise your hand or whatever, and be happy to acknowledge you. Committee reports, any committee
None
reports?
tonight.
All right, resolutions, we have none tonight. Ordinances, let's start in with the ordinances, if you would, sir.
We have plenty of those, Mayor.
Yes, we do.
We did this.
Ordinance 14-17, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending the fee for a sidewalk construction permit.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to adopt ordinance 14-17.
I second.
And this is just a coincidence that we were talking about our sidewalk program at the last meeting, and now we're updating the fee. We, as you remember, updated a lot of our fees in January, and we inadvertently missed this one when we were updating them. They're not in one just section of the ordinance, they're kind of spread out. So we did miss this one, and this is to raise the fee $5 on the sidewalk inspection.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please, go ahead.
If we're going to increase the fee, like we talked about issuing people whose sidewalks are not up to par, these to get them fixed. So will they have to pay this increased fee as well?
Since we haven't mailed out any letters yet, it would be at the new rate, right?
All right, just was double checking.
Yes, sir.
When was the last time, when did we set it at the $15? How long has it been, do you know?
I'm going to guess it's been about at least 10 years. I think that when we did all the other fees in January, that we said nothing had been updated in 10 years. So I'm thinking that it was like 2004.
Yes, sir.
And when does that go into effect?
Well, if it's passed tonight, we have 15 days from the day it passes before it's in effect.
I just want to know when I'm supposed to get my permit, that's all.
Anyone else? Any
Yes.
questions? I'm sorry, yeah, Mr. Lyle.
I have a question. One word, why?
Why? Because the permit, whenever somebody pulls a permit for sidewalk inspection, that does involve our people going out to inspect, to make sure that the forms are set right, they're at the proper depth to protect our water lines. And so because of the time, they're stopping what they were doing to go at the citizens' convenience to check their work.
Okay. So I want to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Collier, if you call for the vote, please.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes,
Mr. McIntyre,
I don't feel too good about this one. If we're going to ask for them to redo their sidewalks here in the future, I'm not sure that $5 can, it's just another way to ding people, so I'll have to say no.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Nope.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Craver.
Yes.
Passed 5-2.
Yes.
Another note on that, I should have mentioned earlier, Mr. Drossel just reminded me that we did discuss waiving that fee for our sidewalk program. So it would have been in the January fees had we not missed it. So just as a further explanation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Collier, if you just continue when you can on those, please.
Ordinance 14-18, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Physio Control Incorporated for technical service support.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Zamble.
move we adopt ordinance 14-18.
Second.
This is a renewal of an existing contract for the technical service support for our defibrillators for the fire department. And the chief was nice enough to come tonight in case any of you had any questions concerning that contract that I probably wouldn't have been able to answer.
Council, any questions? Chief, would you like to just fill us in real quick on it, if you would?
This is a service contract for our, actually for our heart monitor, our defibrillators themselves have a separate contract. This is a pretty inclusive and exclusive contract for our heart monitors. Each heart monitor is worth about $25,000 brand new. The Physio Control Company is the company that actually manufactures the monitors. And our relationship with them has been excellent over the last however many years we've been dealing with the physio monitors. So this is just a continuation of that.
Is this for a year or is it longer?
It's a 3-year contract.
3-year contract. Slater would know. Yes, sir.
Do they come out and do like an inspection or?
Yes, that includes an annual service of both of our monitors, plus it includes a service tech at my door within 24 hours of one of my monitors breaking down. And over the last, I've dealt with physio my entire career almost, but over the last 10 years here in New Carlisle, I've had a tech in the fire station within 2 or 3 hours of one of the monitors going down.
Okay, good.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Mr. Collier, if you call for the vote.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Ordinance 14-19, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance adding a new chapter 880 to the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle regarding the display of drug paraphernalia.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to adopt ordinance that 14-19.
Second.
And this ordinance is a result of Mr. Mike Lowry and Mr. Pedraza and our work session, the discussions that we had at the work sessions.
Any comments, questions? Yes, Mr.
How
Renner.
many students do we have here? You can raise your hand. All the people in the back? Great, okay. So sometimes we have controversial things that come up, and I think this is one of them. It doesn't deal with taxes, which usually is what controversy is about. Well, when you look at this, you're saying, how can the government come in and say you can and can't sell certain things the way that you want to when it's perfectly legal to sell drug paraphernalia, right? Well, the thing is, this gets back to one of the very principles that we have in this country, and I'm going to give you a little short civics lesson. It won't be long, I promise. So we operate under a federalist system, and if you go back in the day to the founding fathers, they liked this dude named John Locke. And Locke talked about things called inalienable rights. And those are things you can say or do that nobody can tell you can't. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all these different things. But then he also said, okay, but those have limits. Like you have freedom of speech, but you can't go into a theater and say the place is on fire. You can say you hope someone dies, but you can't say I'm going to kill you. So there's limits, right? And that's called the social contract. Basically what that means is that your freedoms you can do whatever you want, and your freedoms end where my nose begins. So, you can't punch somebody. So what we do is we take certain behavior and we say, okay, you can do this, but we're going to modify it based on what we as a community, whether that be a town or a country or state, whatever it is, modify that to fit the criteria that we want while still allowing you your freedom. So we look at this and we said, okay, we've got some places in town that are selling drug paraphernalia. They have every right to do it, it's perfectly legal to do it, and this ordinance is not stopping them from doing it. We're basically just saying, don't be so tacky about it. So essentially, what we're saying here is that through your inalienable rights, you can sell this, but through the social contract, let's just do it in a better manner. And so that's why we're not saying, oh, you know, you can't buy or sell this stuff. We're just trying to say, let's do it in a better manner so it's not so out in the open and our town has a better appearance than might otherwise be the case. So any questions on that? Anything? Okay. You'll be tested on
You'll be
this.
tested on it later.
It's going to be on your card, remember that, correct? Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Anyone else?
Sure.
If you would, Mr. Collier, please call for the vote.
Mr. Rick Lowry.
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Ordinance 14-21, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding concerning an extended seasonal employee.
Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move we adopt ordinance 14-21.
A second.
As you all know, we have a contract with our union employees, and in that contract, it has certain requirements about us being able to hire seasonal employees. And part of that contract restricts how many hours we're allowed to let them work in one season. Mr. Kidco came up with an idea, which the union even agreed, they liked, that it was a great idea, to hire one employee that we could divide between 3 departments. And they would all share the cost, so one department is not going to have the burden of it. And then to extend his hours slightly, he's still part-time, no benefits, which this particular person was happy with. He did not need benefits. His family had other ways of having insurance. So it worked out for him and it works out for us. But in order to make any changes to the contract, we have to do what is called a memorandum of understanding. And the union had to approve it, and all their members voted and approved it, and now we're bringing it to you for you to approve, to amend the contract.
Council, any questions, anyone? Mr. Collier, if you call for the vote.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry.
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Ordinance 14-22, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding concerning the donation of sick leave.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to adopt ordinance 14-22.
A
Second.
This goes back to the same union contract, and again, we had one employee who had to miss quite a bit of work due to an illness in his family, and he ran out of sick leave and he ran out of vacation time. And we had other employees who had a lot of accrued vacation or accrued sick leave, excuse me. However, the contract did not really give us any means for them to be allowed to donate their sick leave to this employee who was out. So we did, again, another memorandum of understanding to allow, and we, by looking at the ordinance, you'll see that we did put restrictions so that that employee that does the donating does not themselves become in the place where they're going to run out of sick leave too. They have to have, I believe it's at least 250 hours, which is an equivalent of 6 weeks. If someone has surgery, normally 6 weeks is the time that you would need for recuperation. So 250 hours is a minimum that they would have to have before they can donate. And there's other restrictions as far as if all the sick leave is not used, then it goes back to the person that donated it. But it was just a way of employees helping fellow employees.
It's good to hear. Any comments, questions? Anyone? Mr. Collier, if you call for the
Mr.
vote.
Rick Lowry.
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr.
It's a
McIntyre?
great idea, yes.
Mr. Zambach?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Ordinance 14-23, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a lease agreement with the Board of Education of Tecumseh Local School District for the leasing of property in the city of New Carlisle for recreational purposes.
Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Zimmer?
move we adopt ordinance 14-23.
Second?
This is a renewal of a contract with Tecumseh Local School District for the old Westlake School property. We in turn turn around and sublease it, which is the next ordinance, to the New Carlisle Cubs Football Association. We had previously done 3-year contracts, and then we were having some problem with the maintenance of that property, so last time we did a 1-year contract. They did a great improvement as far as taking care of the property, so we're once again offering a 3-year contract. So that means our contract with the school should be 3 years too, to match the sublease. There is some question right now there's part of that property is where the actual building had stood. And when it was demoed, the contractor, instead of removing all of the rebar,
Yeah, pretty much the footer, the concrete
footer,
below ground.
he buried it instead of removing it. So now a lot of it is resurfacing, and that is causing problems with the mowers. You can't just use your mower, you have to carefully hand mow it and all that. So the Football Association hasn't had a problem with it, they're just using another part of the area. We want to keep our contract with the school so that we can maybe use that area for soccer, not league soccer, but we have a lot of people that are playing soccer in Brubaker Park, and we want to relocate them to a place that's not going to deteriorate Brubaker Park. So we think this is the ideal location. However, we have to resolve the debris situation. I'm recommending we go ahead and do the contract and move forward. We're still working with the school as far as them being able to get it cleaned up. It may not be this summer. We're hoping it will be, but so I just wanted to let you know where we are on that in case something would change that we didn't go forward with it. If we don't go forward with the contract, we would just no longer be the middleman, and the school would just have to deal directly with the Cubs. We're just kind of helping the school out by being the middle person.
Mr. Lowry had a question first here, please. John, if you would, Mr. Lowry.
You kind of covered some of the questions I'd had. If I read this right, the insurance carrier gets passed on. Tecumseh originally insures it, I'm assuming. Then now that we lease it, it's up to us, and then so on to the Cubs, correct?
Right. The Cubs has liability insurance, and they name us as the insurer.
So we're still the insurer?
We're still the, I'm forgetting the word for it. The
We're an additional insurance.
additional insurer, right?
So my question is, for example, let's say someone may get hurt on that wall that's coming up.
It's their insurance.
It's their insurance that'll cover it? Okay. Is Tecumseh working on getting that removed? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Craybacher,
That answers the question.
that was a question. Do I have one over here? Yes.
So they mow it and they take care of it, or do we mow it?
Right now, the way the contract stands, the Cubs mow it.
The Cubs, okay.
They
just
would
making
like
sure.
us to take it back and let it be soccer, and then the city would be willing to take over mowing it. But neither one of us really wants to mow it when all that debris is still. So right now, the way the contract is written and the way we want to sign the contract, they are responsible until we can get the debris removed.
One more. Why don't they just go to the school and lease it, and why do we have to go through and sublease it to them?
It was more of the city wanted to encourage having more recreation facilities. And we're just really, we have the mowers, we have, not that we're doing the mowing, but it just started out that way
Yeah.
15 years ago.
They kind
and
of
I think we
donated it
just
to
had-
us at one point, didn't they?
I'm sorry?
Didn't they donate it
No.
to us?
No.
It's $1 a year.
$1 a year.
Yeah,
But then we turn around and charge the Cubs $1 a year.
Well, I think the other side of that is the school didn't want to be responsible for mowing it and taking care of it. And that's the reason that we go through this direction.
So now that they take care of it, why are we still the middleman? Why not let the school's insurance be the additional insurer?
Go ahead, Mr. Lowry. Go ahead if you have a point.
Because if we lease it, we control it. Correct? That is
Right.
one main issue on that whole situation. If we lease it, if city leases it, they control
Is that what it was?
it. Sure.
We have
If you
more
let the
control.
Cubs lease it, they could you know,
Right.
or whoever, let's not say a company, let's anyone lease it. They can start doing anything up there they want to, as long as it's within the law.
We have ordinances that say grass can't go too high or things like that, so I'm not
We
sure
also
that
want
we
to be
want
able
to
to
grow
let
to
the
6
soccer
foot.
people be there too, so. And they didn't have a problem with us leaving that in the contract, because as far as having it soccer, I think I changed it to unorganized soccer instead of TASA. TASA didn't really want to come up here, which is originally what we had thought, but they are getting use of the field down in Park Lane, and Bethel Township is taking care of maintenance of the field. If they came up here, then TASA would have to take on their responsibility for their part of the field, so they chose to stay down at Rainer Park. But we still have unorganized soccer teams that would like to have space.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Anyone? Mr. Collier, if you call for the vote.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Ordinance 14-24, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance authorizing the subleasing of a parcel of property of the city of New Carlisle, Ohio, to the New Carlisle Cubs Football Association.
Counsel?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
motion to adopt ordinance 14-24.
I second.
And this is the contract with the New Carlisle Cubs I was speaking about a minute ago.
Okay. Any more comments, anyone? Okay. Mr. Collier, if you would, please.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher.
Yes.
Passed 7-0. 2 seconds, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Get caught up. 1, 2. It's out of time.
Ordinance 14-25E, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending the estimated resources of the city of New Carlisle that will be available to appropriate for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2014, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt 1425E.
Second.
Mr. McIntyre. Any questions? Did you want to go ahead?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
You may remember in the fall, we give a tax budget to the county, and then we do our actual ordinance in the March with all of our appropriations and everything. And this is a result of the county looking at our tax budget. Mrs. Harris, if you will tell me if I'm saying this wrong, please, but I believe it's as a result of them looking at the tax budget, and they make some adjustments. And then we in turn have to go back and adjust our ordinance that was a result of the tax budget to meet what the county says.
Okay, thank you.
Just a
Questions?
housekeeping.
All right. Questions? Anyone? Mr. Collier?
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Craybacher,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Now, I just want to, somebody came up to me today and asked me about this particular ordinance.
Which
And
one?
The one we just voted on. And I tried to explain to them, that occasionally we switch things around in the budget to take care of shortfalls. Was I wrong in thinking that?
That's the next ordinance, right, that we're doing. We're moving money around the next ordinance.
Oh, okay.
This one is just to make our ordinance match what the county is saying.
So the next ordinance,
The next one is. where
remember
we're
that
moving money.
question, remember
Yeah,
that question.
okay.
You know how you can get 60.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Collier, please.
Ordinance 14-26, introduction tonight, public hearing and action on 5/19/2014. An ordinance amending section 1280 of the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle regarding the parking of large commercial vehicles. Ordinance 14-27, introduction tonight, public hearing and action on 5/19/2014. An ordinance amending section 1460 of the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle regarding the cost of abating public nuisances. Ordinance 14-28E, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance supplementing certain appropriations in the New Carlisle City Ordinance 1411E and declaring an emergency.
Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
will we adopt ordinance 14-28E?
Second.
And this, Mr. Krabacher, is what we were talking about. The money for the street levy fund had been put in Fund 201, and it should have been in 204. So 204, so when we do our repairs out of, did not have enough for us to be able to do this project in June that we were talking about at Church Street and Hemlock. Those two major cutouts that we were going to try to fix. So and that's why it's an emergency, so that we can get that project moving in June, moving the money into the right fund so that we can use it to pay this bill.
So let me just, like I said, the citizen was asking me these questions, and I was hoping I was giving the right answer, calling, and, being an amateur accountant, I tried to do it. But it's like, you got envelopes, at your house, you got utilities, you got your mortgage, you got whatever. And to say your utilities are a little bit higher, but you somehow know you have extra money in your mortgage. You can take it out of the mortgage and put it into your utilities. Well, we can't do that with all funds, only on certain general funds, right?
And there is some money in the funds that we don't appropriate. And some of this also, when you find out last year when they were doing the budget, they weren't thinking in June they were going to be doing the asphalt. So sometimes we can move the money as the projects come up a little bit sooner. But yeah, most of this is from the 204, 201. Money went into the street fund and it was supposed to be allotted to the levy. So,
It was like,
and I'm
it
still.
was put into the wrong envelope. If you
Yes.
use your envelope situation, we're moving it back to where it needs to be.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was explaining that correctly.
Mr. McIntyre?
And Ms. Jones, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the street levy fund part of that? We said, that was money to attract grants, but at the same time, if there's a problem with the streets that needs to be addressed immediately, it can be used for that because it's earmarked for streets.
Exactly.
So it's not like we're taking money out of, that goes to the pool and putting it
Right.
towards something else. This is money that's for streets, that's being used for streets.
Exactly.
Anyone else? Mr. Carter?
Mr. Krabacher,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Absolutely.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambon,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Mr. Collier, when you're ready, if you'd read, well, let's go into other business. Is there any other business anyone would like to bring up? Mr. Zambo?
I should remind everybody that tomorrow is Election Day. We should all get out and vote at our convenience if we have not already done so.
Anyone else here? Yes.
I want to ask Mr. Lowry, if you have a flag that needs to be destroyed, how do we do that?
I would suggest, if you're in this area, to take it to Post 286 American Legion, north of town. They will take it. Their flag day is June 14th. What day is that on, Sherry? Do you know? It's a Saturday. They have an official flag burning, and that is the proper way to dispose of the American flag, is you burn it, go through the ceremony and burn it. Last year, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was over 9,000 flags. It's quite a sight. It'll put tears in your eyes. If you're a true American, I can promise you that. And June 14th, go up and see it. It's quite a show. You've seen it. I know Kim's seen it. I've served with Michael several of it. It's awesome. And that's a very good question. Yeah, don't throw it in the garbage. Don't throw it out like that. Take it. Find any vet and hand it to a vet. If you can't get the American Legion, find a vet. So your vet and hand it to them. They will get it properly taken care of. I promise.
The other thing with that is if you have children and so forth, or yourself, the paragliders just do an absolutely wonderful job of coming in. They jump out of airplanes. I don't know how many thousands of feet it is, but they land right next to the flags, and it's amazing how they can be so pinpoint on what they do. It's quite a thing to see. It really is. Anyone out in the audience, anything you'd like to say? Anyone at all tonight? Any staff members, anyone? Anything? Anyone else here? Mr. Lowry? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know if it's the proper place or proper time, but I'm going to do so. A week ago on Monday, we had a work session. And I think, in my opinion, that should be brought out tonight and talked about what that work session was about and what came of it. I don't think it should be a rumor on the street that you hear from someone. I think it should come from right here tonight. I would ask that you and the city manager talk about that.
We could do that. Question I have, will that proclamation be ready for next council meeting?
It'll be an ordinance and it should
It'll be an
ready.
ordinance, not a proclamation for next council meeting.
Yeah.
Would you like to reiterate what was said and what was brought on at that point? Or?
The work session was to discuss a possible police property tax, police levy, or instead of that, possibly raising our city income tax. And consensus, although we don't vote in a work session, but the discussion centered around the fact that we felt an income tax would have less of an impact on the lives of the people in the city who are on fixed income and cannot afford for the property taxes to go up. So we're working on an ordinance now to get that on the ballot in November. Would be a 0.5% income tax. Right now, our income tax is 1%. So that would bring it up to 1.5%. Compared to the other cities in the area, we are still way below where everybody else is. The only people that still had a 1% were the villages that were smaller than New Carlisle. You all know we have a very small tax base, not a lot of industry to bring in revenues. So the idea was that we would raise the income tax with the main intent of that additional money to go towards paying our police expenses. Right now we pay about $400,000, close to $400,000 a year for our police contract and other expenses. They're going to need new vehicles in the next year or two. They need laptops, they need tasers. And instead of taking that money from our general fund, we would like to have the additional, well, this will still be out of the general fund, but the income tax will replenish our general fund, and that will give us more money that we can then pay the police expenses, but also go towards more street repair, more infrastructure repair.
Just to give a heads up to everyone, I've got in front of me right now all the cities and villages in the greater Miami Valley. There are 30 of them here. 5 of them still have a 1%, and we're one of them that has a 1% income tax. 10 have 1.50, and 15 of them have 1.75 or more. There's a couple that have 2.25 up to 250, 2.50. So we're really on the low end of the whole schedule on that. That money would be very, very helpful to the city to help with, again, our sheriff's department, police protection, as well as helping to take care of the streets and infrastructure, as you said. Council, anyone else? Yes, sir. Mr. McIntyre.
And I'd also like to point out that the suggestion for the possibility of an increase in the income tax was brought to us by a group of private citizens on a committee. It wasn't something that we came up with. We had a committee that was working on this, and they said, based on their research and what they could find, this would be the best for the city and the best for residents. And if I'm not mistaken, people can still join that committee, can't they?
Yes, they can.
And how would they do
They
that?
can contact me or Mr. Cook, and we haven't got a date set for the next meeting. We're kind of waiting for the legislature and get that moving, and then we're going to go full speed ahead.
So I encourage everyone, if you're passionate about this, to get involved. That's definitely a way to affect change in your city.
Did we say this is going to be a 5-year renewable?
We did not say that, but you did just now.
That's what we're looking at. Is that correct? I just want to let everybody know that.
Yeah, I also want people to know that, as far as I know, New Carlisle has never asked for money for the police department. You know, there's never been a levy, there's never been taxes, never been anything. So, you know, we're asking it because we need it. You know, we're looking toward the future, and you know, I think that's important for them to know that we have never asked for that.
Mr. Lowry's next here.
Yes. John just touched on a little bit of what I wanted to say. I've got a few things I'd like to talk about. Mr. Mayor, you did an excellent job explaining over there the cities that have more taxes than us. But don't think that there's some people up here saying, well, because Vandalia has 2% tax, we want to get more. That is not the point at all. It's not because another city has more taxes. It is because it is needed. On a daily basis, a councilman or these people over here on staff, the thing they hear the most is the bad streets. I'm tired of driving on these streets. There's nobody there to fix it. Okay? As she just said, we're spending $400,000 a year on police protection, which is great. We're getting awesome police protection for $400,000 a year. That's my opinion, okay? But as she said, we can free some of that money up if we get the income tax to fix more streets. We passed the levy for streets, yes, I know, but that was a lot of money. It was kind of like money to go out to get seed money for grants. And they're just not coming left and right, like we want them to. But this will free up some money for streets. Next thing I'd like to talk about is you hear everyone, when I say everyone, it's generalization, but we hear it. Well, I pay X amount % someplace else. That's a sad situation. My wife pays 2% tax. She drives on 1 mile of their roads and parks in a private parking lot and gets nothing from that 2%. Absolutely nothing from that 2%. In my opinion, it's an illegal tax. She's not allowed to vote on it. Yes, we can sit here and say, I have to pay tax in Dayton. I have to pay tax in Kettering. I can't pay. This is our city. I can't control Kettering, I can't control Dayton, and I can't control Dayton. Go to their meetings and tell them, guess what? You're taxing me, and it's taxation without representation. I'm not allowed to vote on it, do something about it. I have called, I don't know how many people about this tax. And I hit a brick wall. They tell me it's not illegal, but everywhere I read it is illegal. But the city of New Carlisle needs the money. I don't want to spend your money, I don't want to spend my money. But the fact of the matter is, I do want to see you drive on good streets, and I want to see good police protection. We need this, we need it.
Thank you. Someone else? Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to touch note on a small rumor I heard over the weekend, and this is not to get our own police department. This is just to fund our contracting through Clark County Sheriff's Department. For us to get our own sheriff's department would cost us astronomical amount of money, and we could never afford it and get the things that we get for the amount that we pay now. So this is just to benefit what we've already got, not to get our own New Carlisle Police Department.
Anyone else? Staff, anyone? Anyone out in the audience? Any comments? Anything?
Would love to hear from you.
Thank you again for all of you being here. Mr. Collier, if you would read the rest of the...
City offices will be closed on Memorial Day, Monday, 5/26/2014. There'll be a joint government meeting Monday, June the 30th at 6:30 p.m. at Tecumseh High School. The Memorial Day walk will be on Saturday, 5/24, starts at noon from the IGA parking lot. The community cleanup will be Saturday, 5/31, from 8 a.m. to noon at the Old Westlake School property. And the New Carlisle Crime Watch meeting will be Wednesday, May 14th at 6:30 p.m. here at Smith Park Shelter House.
And Mr. Lowry, you're going to be at the Crime Watch, is that correct?
And something happens
Okay. Just want to make sure we have someone there. We've agreed to do that, and make sure we do that. Executive session, there's none tonight. And Mr. Zambach, would you like to say something?
I move we adjourn.
I agree with you, sir. We're good.
If you need your paper signed, anybody on this side of the table can sign anybody.
We are on austerity program. They only get 10 minutes.
There you go.
Okay.